What if the most powerful intelligence shaping your organization, your city, and even your daily decisions is not located in any single mind, no matter how experienced, intelligent, or technologically advanced that mind may be? What if the true engine behind innovation, resilience, and large-scale problem-solving is something far more distributed, far more dynamic, and far more powerful? A system composed of many minds, continuously interacting, exchanging signals, and collectively producing outcomes that no individual could ever achieve alone. This is the essence of human collective intelligence, and understanding it is no longer optional in today's world. It is becoming a fundamental requirement for anyone operating at the level of complex systems, whether in business, governance, or urban development. In traditional thinking, intelligence has always been framed as an individual attribute. We measure it through education, experience, expertise, or cognitive ability, and we often associate success with the capacity of individuals, leaders, experts, or specialists to make decisions and guide outcomes. However, as systems have grown in complexity, this model has become increasingly insufficient. No single individual today can fully comprehend the interconnected layers of modern organizations or cities. A CEO cannot simultaneously process real-time customer behavior, operational constraints, financial performance, technological infrastructure, regulatory dynamics, and future market shifts at the level of detail required for optimal decision-making. And yet, organizations continue to function, adapt, and in many cases, outperform expectations. The same applies to cities, where millions of people make independent decisions every second, shaping traffic, economic activity, energy consumption, and social behavior without centralized control over every variable. The only way to explain this phenomenon is to recognize that intelligence has shifted from being individual to being systemic. Human collective intelligence, in its most advanced form, is the capacity of a system to harness distributed knowledge, insights, behaviors, and decisions across a network of individuals and transform them into coordinated, adaptive, and high-performing outcomes. It is not simply collaboration, nor is it the sum of individual contributions. It is an emergent property that arises when interactions between individuals are structured, amplified, and continuously refined through feedback loops. In such systems, intelligence does not reside in one location. It exists in the connections between people, in the flow of information, and in the mechanisms that aggregate and translate inputs into decisions. This is why the most advanced organizations in cities today are not defined merely by their resources or infrastructure, but by how effectively they enable information to flow, decisions to be distributed, and feedback to be captured and reintegrated into the system. To understand this more concretely, consider how modern organizations operate when they are functioning at a high level of collective intelligence. Instead of relying solely on top-down decision-making, they create mechanisms that allow insights from across the organization to surface and influence outcomes. Frontline employees contribute operational intelligence because they are closest to execution and can identify inefficiencies in real time. Customer interactions generate behavioral data that reveals preferences, patterns, and emerging needs. Digital systems capture performance metrics and provide real-time visibility into operations. Leadership, rather than acting as the sole decision-maker, becomes the orchestrator of this system, aligning inputs, setting direction, and ensuring that the organization functions as a coherent whole. When these components are integrated effectively, the organization begins to operate as a unified cognitive system capable of sensing, interpreting, and responding to its environment with a level of sophistication that no individual could achieve independently. This same principle extends to innovation, where the shift from isolated ideation to distributed intelligence has fundamentally changed how new products and services are developed. In the past, innovation was often confined to specialized departments, with a limited number of individuals responsible for generating ideas. Today, leading organizations recognize that valuable insights can come from anywhere within their ecosystem, including employees across functions, customers, partners, and even external communities. By creating structured platforms for idea generation, evaluation, and refinement, they transform innovation into a collective process. Ideas are no longer developed in isolation. They are exposed to diverse perspectives, tested against real-world feedback, and iteratively improved. This significantly reduces risk, accelerates development cycles, and increases the likelihood of market success because the intelligence behind the innovation is both distributed and validated before implementation. When we expand this perspective to cities, the scale and complexity of collective intelligence become even more evident. A city is not simply a physical environment composed of infrastructure and buildings. It is a dynamic system of human behavior, economic activity, and continuous interaction. Every decision made by individuals, where to live, how to travel, what to consume, how to work, generates signals that collectively shape the functioning of the city. Traffic patterns emerge from millions of independent route choices. Economic clusters form based on aggregated business decisions. Social dynamics evolve through countless interactions between individuals and communities. What is remarkable is that these systems often self-organize without centralized control over every detail, demonstrating that intelligence at the city level is inherently collective and emergent. With the integration of technology, this collective intelligence is now being amplified and increasingly engineered. Digital platforms, sensors, and data systems allow cities and organizations to capture signals that were previously invisible. Every interaction, movement, and transaction becomes a data point that contributes to a larger understanding of system behavior. Artificial intelligence systems then aggregate and analyze these data streams, identifying patterns, predicting outcomes, and enabling more informed decision-making. In this context, intelligence is no longer limited by human cognitive capacity. It is extended through technology, creating hybrid systems where human insight and machine processing work together. This represents a fundamental shift from observing collective intelligence to actively designing and optimizing it. However, the existence of data and connectivity alone does not guarantee effective collective intelligence. In fact, without proper structure, systems can become less intelligent rather than more. Information overload, misaligned incentives, lack of trust, and organizational silos can all prevent the effective flow of information and reduce the system's ability to generate meaningful outcomes. Groupthink can suppress diversity of perspectives, while unstructured participation can create noise instead of insight. This is why the most successful implementations of collective intelligence are not accidental. They are intentionally designed. They incorporate mechanisms for structured participation, ensuring that contributions are relevant and actionable. They prioritize diversity, recognizing that different perspectives enhance problem solving. They establish feedback loops that allow the system to learn from outcomes and continuously improve. And they leverage technology not just to collect data, but to transform it into intelligence through effective aggregation and interpretation. At a strategic level, this redefines the role of leadership. In traditional models, leaders are expected to have the answers, to make decisions, and to guide the organization based on their expertise. In systems driven by collective intelligence, leadership becomes less about individual decision-making and more about system design. Leaders are responsible for creating the conditions under which intelligence can emerge, scale, and sustain itself. They design the structures, incentives, and platforms that enable participation, alignment, and continuous learning. They ensure that the organization remains adaptive, capable of responding to changes in its environment without relying on centralized control for every decision. Looking ahead, the implications of human collective intelligence are profound. The most competitive organizations in cities will not necessarily be those with the most resources, the largest workforce, or even the most advanced technologies in isolation. They will be those that can integrate these elements into coherent, intelligent systems, systems that can sense their environment in real time, interpret signals accurately, and respond effectively. Systems that can leverage the full spectrum of human insight, augmented by data and artificial intelligence, to make better decisions faster. Systems that are not only efficient but continuously learning and evolving. Ultimately, human collective intelligence represents a shift in how we understand capability itself. It moves us away from the idea that intelligence is something individuals possess and toward the recognition that intelligence is something systems produce. It is not about replacing individual human intelligence, but about amplifying it through connection, coordination, and design. And as we move deeper into an era defined by complexity and interdependence, the ability to harness and engineer collective intelligence will become one of the most critical capabilities for shaping the future of business, cities, and society as a whole.